It's such a weird paradox, isn't it? We're living in this time where everyone is absolutely obsessed with authenticity.
Oh, completely. It's the ultimate buzzword.
Right. We want real food,
Hmm.
real news. We want real people on our screens. I mean, we've built an entire language around it. No filters, living your truth, keeping it 100.
It basically become the currency of the culture. If
Yeah.
you're seen as inauthentic, you're out. You're canceled.
Exactly. But then you look at what we actually consume the most.
Hmm.
Things like reality TV, social media, even just the way we all kind of curate our own lives online.
Mm.
It's arguably the most manufactured content in human history. So we're sitting there demanding the truth while we're binge watching something that's, for all intents and purposes, a lie.
It's the central contradiction of modern life, I think. We crave the truth, but we seem to prefer a very specifically edited, color-graded, and sound-mixed version of it.
That is exactly what we're going to try and unpack today. We are doing a deep dive into the construction of realness. And to do that, we're not just looking at TV ratings or, celebrity gossip columns. We've pulled together a source stack that is, frankly, huge and a little bit chaotic, but it all connects.
It looks scattered, but the through line is there.
It really is. We've got clinical psychology breakdowns of ancient myths. We have Reddit threads debating game theory and Survivor versus Big Brother.
Of course, the eternal debate.
The eternal debate. We've also got academic papers on this concept called hyper-authenticity, and we're even going to get into AI deepfakes on America's Got Talent.
It sounds like a wild mix, but what we're really trying to figure out is why we as human beings are so easily hacked by stories. Why do we root for the villain? Why do we sometimes believe the lie even when we know it's a lie?
And maybe the biggest question, are we even capable of telling the difference anymore?
The sobering thought.
It is. And to get to the bottom of it, we have to start way, way back, long before reality TV, before Jeff Probst, before Simon Cowell. We need to look at the blueprint for all of this.
The source code.
Exactly. And you brought in a source from Smoky Rain Counseling Services that deals with archetypes.
Mm.
Now, normally when I hear the word archetype, my mind just goes straight back to high school English class.
Right, you think of like the hero's journey or something. But in psychology, and especially in narrative theory, an archetype isn't just a stereotype or a trope. It's more fundamental than that. It's like a primal pattern.
Okay, a pattern of what?
A pattern of human experience. Think of it as the original source code for our brains. These are the symbols, the hero, the mother, the trickster, that pop up in every culture, in every story, across all of time.
Why, though? Why is it so universal?
Because they represent these fundamental truths about how we see the world and ourselves. The source calls them parables of truth, which I think is a perfect way to put it.
I like that. Parables of truth.
Exactly. We don't just consume stories for entertainment. We do it to find ourselves in them. Our brains are hardwired to scan a narrative and ask, okay, which one of these characters is me?
And the one that is most relevant to this whole conversation about reality, and the one that really frames our whole deep dive today, is the myth of Echo and Narcissus.
Mm-hmm.
The ultimate story about image.
And I think most people get the Narcissus part of it. He's the guy who's in love with himself. We throw that word around all the time. Oh, my boss is such a narcissist.
We do, but the Echo part of that story is usually left out, and according to this counseling source, she's actually the key to understanding the whole dynamic.
She's the other half of the equation.
She is the essential other half. So let's just quickly walk through the details because they really matter here. Echo is a nymph, and she gets punished by the goddess Juno.
What does she do?
She was a bit of a chatterbox. She distracted Juno with stories while Jupiter was having affairs. So Juno's punishment is very specific and very cruel. She takes away Echo's voice.
Her own voice.
Her ability to generate original speech, original thought. She can only repeat the last few words that are spoken to her. She becomes a literal echo of other people. Wow. I mean, just psychologically, that is a nightmare. To have no identity of your own, you're just reactive.
A mirror.
A sound mirror, exactly. And of course, she falls desperately in love with Narcissus. Now, Narcissus is famously the most beautiful man in the world, but he's completely self-absorbed. He rejects everyone who shows interest in him.
So Echo is following him around, but she can't even tell him how she feels.
She can't. She just hides in the woods, bouncing his own words back at him, hoping he'll notice her, hoping for just a crumb of attention. She's trying so hard to connect, but she has no self to connect with. And the famous climax of the story is that he completely ignores her, he stumbles upon a pool of water, sees his own reflection, and that's it. He's mesmerized.
He falls in love with the image. He completely wastes away just staring at himself, and he eventually turns into the Narcissus flower. He chooses the reflection of a person over the actual person standing right there behind him.
Okay, so this is where the source from the counseling service makes the big connection. They argue this isn't just a fable about vanity. They say it's basically a diagnostic tool.
It really is. They map it directly onto modern clinical diagnoses. Narcissus obviously represents narcissistic personality disorder, that excessive preoccupation with your own self-image, your grandeur.
Right. But
Echo, they argue, represents codependency.
codependency. That feels like a bit of a stretch from an ancient myth.
Does it? I mean, look at the mechanics of it. Echo has no self-identity. Her entire sense of being is derived from an external source. She seeks approval from Narcissus just to feel real. She literally needs him to speak so she can exist.
So she needs him, and he needs
Ah,
the reflection.
yes. It's a closed loop of validation that goes nowhere. And that, I mean, that's uncomfortably relevant, isn't it? Because if you look at the relationship between, say, a reality TV star and their audience, who is who in that scenario?
That's a great question. Are we, the viewers, the narcissists, just staring into the screen, falling in love with this reflection of humanity that we see?
Or are we Echo, sitting on the couch, just repeating the catchphrases, consuming the drama, living through their narrative because we've lost touch with our own?
Wow. I think maybe we take turns. Sometimes we're the one broadcasting our image, and sometimes we're the one consuming it. But that core idea, choosing the image over the reality, that drives us straight into the next part of our stack.
Let's do it.
We found these really fascinating Reddit threads on Hellenism, of all places, discussing what they call the first reality competition.
The Judgment of Paris.
The Judgment of Paris, the story that kicks off the Trojan War.
It is, but if you strip away the togas and the ancient Greek setting, the users on Reddit point out that this is, I mean, it is literally the pilot episode of The Bachelor.
Okay, lay out the scenario for anyone who might have skipped that day in Classics 101.
All right, so you have Paris. He's a young, handsome Trojan prince, maybe a little naive. And he gets put in this absolutely impossible position. He has to award a golden apple inscribed with the words, "To the fairest," to one of 3 goddesses.
Yeah, the contestants are?
The contestants are Hera, the queen of the gods, Athena, the goddess of wisdom, and Aphrodite, the goddess of love.
But just like any good reality show, it's not actually about merit, is it? It's not like they're just standing there being judged on their objective fairness. It's about the bribe. It's the strategic play.
It is 100% about the bribe. Each one makes him a strategic offer. Hera goes first. She offers him kingly power. She basically says, "Choose me, and I will make you the ruler of all of Europe and Asia."
So she's offering him legacy, stability, power.
Exactly. Then Athena steps up. She offers him wisdom and battle prowess. "Choose me," she says, "and I will make you the greatest warrior and the wisest strategist who ever lived." She's offering him competence and respect.
Okay, so you have 2 options there. Political power or skill and wisdom. Both of those seem like objectively good choices for a prince who's supposed to one day rule a kingdom.
They are the smart choices, right? They're the choices that benefit the collective, that benefit his people, his state. But then Aphrodite makes her offer.
And she doesn't offer him anything practical.
Not at all. She doesn't offer power or wisdom. She offers him Helen of Sparta, who is already married, by the way, but is known as the most beautiful mortal woman in the world. She offers him pure, selfish desire.
And Paris, in what the Reddit threads call the original villain edit, chooses the girl.
He chooses the girl. He gives the apple to Aphrodite. And the analysis in these threads is that he becomes the archetype of the bad prince. He chose his own personal desire over the good of his state, which was wisdom, or the good of his family, which was power.
And in doing so, he dooms his entire civilization.
He dooms Troy, the Trojan War kicks off, the city burns to the ground, thousands of people die, all because he wanted the hot girl. It's the ultimate selfish move.
It is exactly the guy on Survivor who sabotages the food supply because he's angry, or the person on Big Brother who betrays their closest ally for a showman's. You watch it and you think, what an absolute idiot.
But you also can't look away.
You cannot look away.
And there was another great point made in that thread where one user argued that maybe Paris isn't even the real villain here. Maybe he's just a prop.
A prop for who?
For Eris, the goddess of discord. See, the whole reason this contest is even happening is because Eris wasn't invited to a big wedding on Mount Olympus. It was a major social slight, a breach of hospitality.
So she got petty.
She got incredibly petty. She was so mad about being left out that she created the golden apple and threw it into the middle of the party specifically to watch them all fight over it.
Oh, I love that. So Iris is the executive producer. She's the one in the control room creating the scenario.
Yes, she's the one who manipulated the entire environment just to create drama. Paris was just the poor cast member who fell for her trap. He thought he was making a free choice, but he was actually just playing a role in her production.
So if we've been telling stories about this exact dynamic for 3,000 years, the producer who creates the conflict, the bad prince who makes a selfish choice, it suggests that we, as an audience, actually enjoy watching the bad prince make the wrong choice.
Yeah.
We like the chaos.
We do. But the question of why we like it is incredibly complex. It's not just, schadenfreude or enjoying watching a train wreck. And this brings us right to the psychology of the viewer.
Okay.
We've got a really heavy hitter of a study here from the journal Frontiers in Psychology, a team led by a researcher named Teasdale. And what they did was they hooked people up to monitors and had them watch film productions of Shakespeare's King Lear and Sophocles' Antigone.
Wait, they use Shakespeare and Greek tragedy to study audience engagement? That seems really intense. Usually these studies use like clips from Friends or a car commercial.
Right. But they went for the high drama, and I think it's because the emotional stakes are so much clearer, and really the psychological mechanisms of how we bond with a character are the same, whether you're watching Hamlet or The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills.
Fair enough. So what were they looking for?
They were looking for the connection between two specific concepts, identification and moral approval.
Let's define those, because identification sounds a bit like, I see myself as that person. But I'm guessing in a lab setting, it's more nuanced than that.
It is, yeah. In this context, identification is a cognitive process they often call mentalizing.
Wow.
It's your ability to understand a character's mental state. It's not about agreeing with them. It's just asking, do I get why they're doing what they're doing? Does their internal logic make sense to me?
Okay, so I could mentalize with, say, a bank robber in a movie if I understand he's doing it to pay for his sick daughter's medical bills.
Exactly. You get his motivation. And then moral approval is much simpler. It's just, do I think this person is a good person? Do their actions align with my own ethical code?
No, my first thought is that those two things would just move in lockstep. If I understand you, I probably like you. Empathy usually creates sympathy.
And, the study did find a strong correlation there. In general, we tend to morally approve of the characters we can identify with. And this is the huge loophole that basically explains the existence of all of reality TV, they found that these two things can be decoupled. Oh.
By using something called attribution.
Attribution. Okay, break that down for us.
Attribution is simply how we explain someone's behavior. When we see a character do something, we attribute the cause to one of two things. Either their disposition, which is just who they are as a person, their core character, or their situation, the external pressures and circumstances that are acting upon them.
I need a reality TV example to get my head around this.
Okay, perfect. Imagine a contestant on Survivor. He loses a critical challenge for his tribe, and he just screams at his teammate, just unloads on them.
Okay.
Now, if I attribute that outburst to his disposition, I'd say he screamed because he's an angry, abusive jerk. That's just who he is.
He's a bad person.
He's a bad person.
Yeah.
But if I attribute it to the situation, I'd say, well, he screams because he hasn't eaten a real meal in 10 days, he's soaking wet, he's sleep-deprived, and he's physically exhausted.
It's not who he is, it's what he's going through. Exactly. And here's the kicker from the study. They found that we can maintain high identification, we can mentalize with a character, while having very low moral approval if we attribute their bad behavior to the situation.
Whoa. So I can look at a villain on TV and think, wow, what a terrible human being. I would never do that. But I can keep watching and maybe even secretly root for them because I totally get why they're acting that way in that specific high-pressure context.
That's it. It creates what the researchers call a safe space for moral exploration. We maintain what's known as psychological distance. We can engage with the idea of evil or selfishness or betrayal, but from a safe distance.
Like a simulation.
It is. We can be Narcissus staring into the pool, fascinated by this reflection of bad behavior, but we can tell ourselves we're just an observer. We don't have to own any of it. It gives us permission to enjoy watching people be terrible.
That is fascinating. And that idea of being a safe observer is a perfect way to get into this next paper. This one is from the Journal of Consumer Research. It's by two authors, Rose and Wood, and this is the one that introduces the term hyper-authenticity.
I love this term. It sounds like something out of a William Gibson novel.
It really does. But it explains our modern relationship with media so perfectly. The researchers, they start from the basic premise that the audience is not stupid.
A good place to start.
A very good place to start. We know reality TV is heavily produced. We know the producers are in the confessionals feeding them lines. We know an entire story can be changed in the editing room. We know Iris threw the apple into the party.
We're in on the joke. We know it isn't a documentary.
Right. But instead of turning it off, we engage in this process of hyper-authenticity. And what that means is that the viewer actively constructs their own version of the truth by decoding the show as they watch it. We're looking for, like, leaks of reality in the middle of all the fabrication.
So when a housewife flips a table at a dinner party, we know the producers probably set up the dinner party just to create that fight.
But we decide that the anger is real. The emotion is authentic, even if the situation isn't.
Right. We're sifting through the fake stuff to find that little nugget of what we believe is real human emotion. And Rose and Wood, they identify 3 specific paradoxes that we have to navigate as viewers to do this.
Okay, what's the first one?
The first one is the paradox of situation.
This sounds like it goes back to that attribution concept we were just talking about.
It's directly related. We want the setting, the situation to be a complete fantasy. We want them to be on a deserted island or in a ridiculous mansion or on a stage with a million lights, but we judge their actions within that fantasy by our own real-world logic.
Give me an example of that.
We'll be watching someone on Big Brother and they'll be crying because they got a letter from home, and we'll say, oh, come on, why are they crying? It's only been 2 weeks. I wouldn't cry.
Huh.
Right.
We want them to be in a movie, but we expect them to act like they're sitting in our living room.
Yeah.
We want the fantasy context, but the totally grounded, relatable reaction.
Exactly. The second one is the paradox of identification.
Bitches.
This is where we say we want real people. We say we want the everyman, the plumber from Ohio, the nice librarian from Texas. But the data, the ratings show that when we actually get normal, well-adjusted people on screen, we get bored.
We get bored so fast.
Instantly. What we secretly crave are storybook characters. We want the heroes, the damsels, and most of all, we want the villains.
The paper brings up Jerry Manthe from the second season of Survivor.
Oh, a classic example. The original Black Widow. The audience at the time hated her. They absolutely vilified her. People were writing angry letters to CBS demanding she be kicked off.
Right.
But in follow-up interviews, those same viewers admitted that the show would be unwatchable without her. They claimed they wanted authentic, nice people, but their viewing habits proved they needed a villain. They needed the bad prince to make the story interesting.
So we are fundamentally lying to ourselves and to pollsters about what we actually want to watch. We say we want nice, but we tune in for drama.
We are. Which leads to the third paradox, the paradox of production. This is where we claim to want unscripted television, but we openly appreciate and discuss the producer's manipulation.
We talk about the edit. Oh, they're giving him the villain edit, or she's getting the hero edit.
Precisely. We talk about producer interference. By acknowledging that the strings are being pulled, we actually feel smarter. We feel like insiders who can see behind the curtain. We accept the falseness of the production to get to what we feel is the truth of human nature under pressure.
And speaking of pressure, let's look at the arenas where this plays out most explicitly. The big strategy games. We have a huge stack of Reddit threads here debating the 2 titans of the genre, Survivor versus Big Brother.
The Coke and Pepsi of reality competition, a debate as old as time.
And the central question is simple, but it's endless. Which game is harder? Which one requires a more complex, a more authentic, strategic mind?
It is a fierce, fierce debate online. Let's start with the argument for Big Brother. The users who defend it always point to the fact that it's a long game.
What do they mean by that?
In Survivor, the cycle is incredibly fast. It's usually 3 days. You have a challenge, you scramble, you vote someone out, you reset. In Big Brother, you have an entire week between evictions.
You would think having more time would make it easier. You have time to rest, time to think things through.
The Reddit users argue it's the exact opposite. They say that in a week, paranoia just festers. A small seed of doubt can grow into a massive tree of mistrust. You have to maintain a lie or an alliance for 168 hours straight.
And you're stuck.
You are stuck in a house with nothing to do. No phones, no books, no TV, just each other. So you overanalyze every single glance, every whispered conversation. It is pure social claustrophobia.
Plus, Big Brother has the head of household, the HOH. That creates a very clear, very tangible power structure each week.
Right, it's an explicit authority. The HOH is safe, and they get to nominate 2 people for eviction. So if the wrong person, someone from the minority alliance, wins HOH, the entire power structure of the house can flip on a dime. You have to be able to pivot and suck up to someone you were trying to evict just yesterday.
Okay, but there's a counter-argument to this, right? A
Yeah.
lot of people say that modern Big Brother has been solved.
Yeah, that's the big criticism. Solved like a math problem. The dominant strategy for years now has been to form a massive alliance on day one, like the brigade or the cookout, and then just systematically pick off everyone else. It's mathematically safe, but for the viewer, it can be incredibly boring television. It's predictable.
So how does Survivor compare in this strategy and realness debate?
The defining feature of Survivor is insecurity. As one user put it, unless you have that individual immunity necklace around your neck, anyone can go home at any time. There's no HOH to keep your alliance safe for a week.
So that creates what they call fluidity.
Total fluidity. Rooting blocks and alliances can shift from one day to the next. What was a solid group of 6 on day 12 can completely implode by day 14.
And the environment itself has to be a huge factor, right? This goes straight back to that attribution theory.
It's a massive factor. In Survivor, you are starving, you're sleep deprived, you're living in the elements, you're physically suffering. The situation is extreme. And as many Reddit users pointed out, that strips people down to their core. It's very hard to keep up a fake persona when you are physically and mentally broken.
The mask slips off.
The mask absolutely slips off. So in Survivor, the realness is seen as coming from that physical deprivation. In Big Brother, the realness comes from that slow burn psychological exhaustion.
And that changes how we, the audience, attribute their behavior.
For sure. When someone has a meltdown in Big Brother, since they're not starving, we're more likely to attribute it to their disposition. We think, wow, that person is just unstable. But in Survivor, we forgive a lot more because of the extreme situation. We say, well, of course he's angry. He hasn't eaten in 2 weeks.
There was one quote in the threads that I thought just summed it all up perfectly. A user wrote, "In Survivor, the strategy is simple, but the players overcomplicate it. In Big Brother, the strategy is complex, but the players play a simple game."
It's brilliant, and it's so true. And I think that's why, historically, Survivor has a much better track record of underdog runs. Because the game is so fluid, one person or a small group can actually flip the entire game on its head.
Like the I-2-4.
A classic example. Whereas in Big Brother, the math of that big dominant alliance often creates a wall that is almost impossible for an underdog to break through.
Okay, so we love these brutal, manipulative strategy games.
Yeah.
We love watching the chaos. But what happens when a show tries to do the exact opposite? What happens when a show tries to be genuinely nice and authentic?
It usually fails.
It usually fails. And we have a perfect case study of this from the journal Media Industries. It's an analysis of a UK talent show called Got to Dance.
This article is basically a cautionary tale for anyone who makes content. Got to Dance was a show on the Sky One network in the UK, and its entire brand identity was built around authenticity.
Right, because this was airing during the peak Simon Cowell era. The X Factor and Britain's Got Talent were huge, and a big part of their appeal was, mocking the bad auditions.
It really was. They would deliberately put delusional or untalented people on television just so the audience and the judges could laugh at them. Got to Dance wanted to be the antidote to that.
So they hired nicer judges.
Much nicer judges. Their lead judge was Ashley Banjo from the dance troupe Diversity. He's seen as this genuinely good guy, very active in his community. And the show's executive producer, a guy named Duncan Gray, explicitly said in interviews they wanted to focus on dedication to art and positive role models, not just chasing 15 minutes of fame.
It sounds perfect, right?
Yeah.
On paper, it's exactly what we say we want as viewers.
Mm-hmm.
Give us nice people with real talent and a good attitude.
And yet, it failed. And the reason why it failed is so fascinating. It wasn't just because nice is boring, although that's certainly part of the equation. It was because the production team completely misunderstood the nature of audience engagement.
Okay, break that down for us.
See, for its first few seasons, the show did pretty well. But in the later seasons, specifically season 5, they made a couple of key changes. The first was moving the show's broadcast schedule from the winter to the summer.
That seems like such a minor logistical detail. I mean, who cares if a show's on in January or July?
It turns out the core audience cares. Deeply. The show had previously enjoyed what the author of this paper calls embedded engagement.
Embedded engagement.
Yeah. It aired on dark, cold winter nights. It was part of the family's domestic routine. Families would watch it together after dinner. It was a ritual. It was predictable and comforting.
It was television comfort food.
It was. But when they moved it to the summer, they broke that ritual. People are on vacation, the kids are out of school, it's light outside. The audience, specifically the core demographic of housewives and families, they just disengaged. The ratings for that group dropped from over 500,000 to barely 200,000.
Wow.
The realness of the show, its appeal, was tied directly to the real life of its viewers. When the schedule didn't fit their real life anymore, they just stopped watching.
So the producers panicked, I assume, and they tried to pivot. They tried to get the youth vote.
They did what every panic-stricken TV producer does in that situation. They hired a YouTuber.
Of course they did.
They brought on this guy, Joe Sugg, who was known online as Thatcher Joe. He had a massive online following, millions of subscribers. The idea was that he would drive social media traffic and bring in a younger audience.
And did it work? On paper?
On paper, it was a huge success. They were getting 50,000 live views on the YouTube streams. The show's hashtags were trending on Twitter. I'm sure the digital marketing team was high-fiving each other.
But the actual broadcast TV ratings?
They continued to plummet. And this illustrates this critical distinction that the author makes between fleeting engagement and embedded engagement.
Okay.
Fleeting engagement is the click. It's the like, it's the tweet. It looks great on a spreadsheet. It feels exciting to marketers, but it has no depth. It doesn't create loyalty. It's a quick snack.
And embedded engagement is the full meal.
It's the full meal. It's long-term loyalty. It's the audience that trusts you and has built you into their lives. And by chasing that cool, young, fleeting audience, got to dance, completely alienated their core embedded audience. They broke the contract.
They tried to manufacture coolness, and the audience could smell the inauthenticity a mile away.
Exactly. It brings us right back to that paradox of production. We don't mind when producers manipulate the drama inside the show, but we really hate it when they try to manipulate the brand of the show itself.
We want the game to be fake, but we want our relationship with the show to feel real.
That's it, perfectly.
And that feeling brings us to the final frontier of all this, the ultimate manufactured reality. We're stepping out of television for a minute and into literature and technology. We've got this great article from LitHub called Hero Edit, and it points out something really strange. For about 50 years, serious fiction writers completely ignored reality TV.
It is strange, isn't it? Because normally novels are really quick to pick up on new technology. Things like smartphones, the internet, social media. They all started appearing in literary fiction almost immediately.
But reality TV has been around in some form since Candid Camera back in the 1940s.
For decades, but serious literature just wouldn't touch it. And the author of this piece suggests it's because reality TV is seen as being shallower than fiction. But I think the more important point they make is that reality TV presents itself as the truth. It stifles doubt.
What do you mean by that?
A novel requires you, the reader, to use your imagination to build the world. Reality TV just demands that you sit there and watch. It doesn't leave any room for a novelist to come in and interpret it because it's already pretending to be the interpretation.
But that's starting to change now. We're finally seeing these big, serious novels that tackle it, like Chain Gang All-Stars or, the big one, The Hunger Games.
And notice the common theme with all of them. They're all dystopias. Literature has finally decided to engage with reality TV, and its conclusion is that the logical endpoint of this obsession is the complete loss of our humanity.
That if you edit people into characters for long enough, you eventually start killing them for sport on television.
The authors are basically screaming a warning at us. They're saying if you start treating real people like they're just Sims in a game or avatars on a screen, you will lose your soul.
Which sounds incredibly extreme. Until you look at our final source for today. This is what you call the ultimate narcissus moment.
It really is.
It's a transcript from an episode of America's Got Talent, featuring an act called Metaphysic.
It's mind-blowing technology. And honestly, it's a little bit terrifying. So this group comes out on stage, and they use deepfake AI technology live. They have a singer come out and perform an opera song.
Okay.
But they point a special camera at him, and on the giant screen behind the stage, the face that the audience sees isn't the singer's, it's Simon Cowell's.
So the audience is watching a deepfake of Simon Cowell singing opera. And Simon Cowell himself is sitting at the judges' table watching himself sing opera.
He is literally staring at a digitally perfected operatic version of his own reflection.
And his reaction is the absolute key to all of this. What does he say?
He says, and this is a direct quote, "This is the best act, I believe, of the
Of
series."
course he does. It's Narcissus at the pool. He's looking in the mirror and he's in love.
It is the myth made literal. He goes on to praise their talent and originality. But you have to stop and think about that. Is it talent? It's a computer program. Is it original? It's a copy of his own face.
But to Simon, it's the most beautiful, most talented thing he's ever seen. It's the perfection of the self, made manifest.
He calls it talent, but it's not. It's just ego. He isn't watching a contestant perform. He is watching a better version of himself, and he's giving it a standing ovation. It's the ultimate hero edit.
It brings this entire deep dive full circle, doesn't it?
Perfectly.
We started with Paris, the bad prince, choosing his own desire over wisdom and starting a war.
Then we move to survivor players who manipulate the situation to survive a game and win $1 million.
Then we saw how we, the audience, embrace this idea of hyper-authenticity, how we willingly accept the fake, because the real emotion we get from it, the drama, feels good.
And we ended here, with Simon Cowell applauding a digital ghost of himself and calling it the best thing he's ever seen.
It just raises this huge, terrifying question. If we prefer the deep fake, if we prefer the villain edit of Jerry Manthe, if we prefer the manufactured drama of The Bachelor over the messiness of real dating, do we actually want reality at all anymore?
Or are we just terrified of being boring?
I think that's it. I think we're all editing our own lives now, right? On Instagram, on TikTok, on LinkedIn, we're all applying our own hero edit. We're all trying to be the storybook character.
Because being the plain old everyman feels like failure in today's world.
So maybe the next time you find yourself watching a reality show or even just scrolling through your own social media feed, it's worth asking yourself, am I looking at a real person? Or am I just looking at an echo?
And it's probably worth remembering that in the end, Echo faded away until she was nothing left but a sound.
That is a cheerful thought to end on. We will leave you with that little existential crisis to mull over. Thanks for deep diving with us.
See you next time.